For the next 5 days, I'm gonna completely quit drinking. No water, no juice, milk, beer, or any kind of beverage. I'm gonna attempt to stay hydrated by eating my water and see how that affects my body. Why, you might ask? Because I have free will. And I wanna see if it's possible. There are also some surprising benefits to hydrating through foods as opposed to liquids, but I'll get into those later. My plan is not to drink anything. So I can still use liquids to make things like rice or pasta, but I'm not going to be making anything drinkable. So no smoothies or protein shakes. I'll just be chomping down on water-rich foods and trying my best to avoid dehydration. Let's get into it. My day started out fairly normal with some eggs for breakfast, but I also warmed up some frozen berries to add a bit more moisture to the meal. The only real difference to my day so far is that I couldn't have a cup of coffee.
A couple spoonfuls of berries is surprisingly satisfying. Turns out fruit is very hydrating.
So far, the only real disruption to my morning routine has been no coffee. But just because I can't drink coffee doesn't mean I can't have caffeine. We'll see how desperate I get by the end of the week. I may end up eating some instant coffee. At work, I ate an apple for a snack, and a little later I had some dry saltines and washed them down with a big juicy orange. I had another juicy orange with my lunch, which was some leftover curried chicken, and I had to pick up a package on my way home from work, and it came with a pack of jelly beans, so I ate those on my way to the store. Well, pretty normal day so far. I don't usually drink anything at work besides like a cup of coffee, but now is where things will get interesting, because usually after work, I drink about 1 liter of water and then go to training, and after training, I drink like 2 to 3 liters of water. So I'm gonna need to get some very hydrating foods so that I don't completely dehydrate myself tonight. All right, picked up some grapes, a cucumber, and a 12-kilo watermelon. Super hydrating. Apparently these things are 90% water. This is gonna be my main source of hydration for the next few days. Let's get into it. I love eating water. I'm not taking a water bottle to training today, but I am taking watermelon. That'll do. I had a pretty good workout and the cucumber and watermelon was holding me over, but after I was absolutely parched. Tough training session. I am parched. Let's eat. I mean, chugging a big bottle of ice cold electrolytes is pretty satisfying after training, but watermelon is a close second. Packed a few grapes as well. Leftover watermelon liquid, can't be drinking that. Merry Christmas, it's dinner time. All right, I don't necessarily feel thirsty, but I definitely want something cool to drink. I can't have that. Instead, I've got some beef and some rice, good amount of liquid in that rice. That's really gonna be satisfying. Some homemade tzatziki, throwing that on top, an avocado. Absolutely amazing dinner. I'm gonna enjoy this. Well, it was a very delicious dinner, but now I am more... Well, that was a very delicious dinner, but now I am more thirsty than I was before. Turns out eating your water is actually pretty difficult, especially when you're exercising and it's summer in Australia. So I'm gonna eat another 1/8 of a watermelon. Hopefully that helps. Well, another 1/8 of a watermelon done, and I'm extremely full and unfortunately still thirsty. This challenge is gonna be a lot more difficult than I originally thought. I was extremely tempted to drink some water after brushing my teeth. Just want you to know, I didn't do it.
Well, no surprise, I woke up quite thirsty this morning. That's the good stuff. For breakfast, I've got some eggs, but I'm also gonna have something a bit controversial. You let me know if you think this counts as a liquid. Kefir. It's basically just milk, but it's fermented and coagulated enough that, in my opinion, it's not liquid.
After a mildly hydrating breakfast, I went to work, and on my break, I ate an apple and another big juicy orange alongside some super dry salt and vinegar rice cakes. I actually think that ripe oranges might be the most satisfyingly hydrating fruit. They're actually starting to beat out watermelon for me. My lunch was some beef and rice, and I washed that down with another hydrating orange. So why would anyone want to eat their water? Could there actually be some sort of benefit to this? Well, there is one theory that drinking water with your meals can dilute your stomach acid, and that would cause you to have some disruption in your digestion. However, this theory doesn't really make sense because your stomach can produce more acid on the fly and changes pH pretty quickly. But one of the best theoretical benefits to eating your water is that you get slow, sustained hydration. So that way you absorb the water slowly as you digest it, and it doesn't flush right through your system the way it would if you just chugged a big bottle of water. I can attest this theory because even though I'm not drinking any water and I do feel pretty thirsty, I don't seem to be dehydrated, at least not according to my pee. All right, I feel like I did a little bit better at hydrating today at work, but got to get a lot more in because I'm getting a slight bit of a headache. Could be from the lack of caffeine, could also be from dehydration. I don't feel super thirsty. Definitely would like a big glass of water. Instead, we've got cucumber. Just took all the skin off, so there's a little less fiber, a little more easily digestible. And this is very similar to my experience on the fruit-only diet. When I ate nothing but fruit for a week, I felt extremely hydrated despite barely drinking any water.
These are starting to ferment a little bit.
There is the whole fourth phase of water theory, which is highly debated, but what's not debated is that fruits and vegetables contain a bunch of vitamins and minerals, and these vitamins and minerals help you process the water as you digest it. That way your body properly absorbs the water. And that's the same reason why adding electrolytes to drinking water is so popular. Fruit also contains a ton of carbohydrates, and it's right there in the word, carbohydrate. The small intestine pulls water into the bloodstream using sodium-glucose co-transporters. The cells suck up the sodium and the glucose, and then the water follows through osmosis. Not only that, but carbs help your muscles retain more water. Each gram of muscle glycogen holds around 3 to 4 grams of water with it. This is why fighters can regain so much weight in just 24 hours after an extreme water cut. The only issue is that the hydration effect of sugar works best around the 5% mark. So things like watermelon, cucumber, grapefruit, and strawberries. However, certain fruits like oranges, which I'm loving so much lately, are between 9 and 12% sugar. So that's why they're so refreshing while you're eating them, but after, they kind of leave your mouth feeling a little bit dry and sticky. Another extremely dehydrating training session. Salt is a good addition. Well, all that watermelon was delicious, but it doesn't quite quench the thirst. This challenge is a lot more difficult than I originally thought. But time for dinner, salmon, broccoli, and that's pretty much it. Gonna need to get some more fruit in after. That meal did nothing but make me more hungry. Time to hydrate. Well, the problem is eating fruit is so satisfying while you're eating it, but as soon as you finish eating it, my mouth is like still sticky and dry. I just want a glass of water to rinse it down. I do feel fairly hydrated now, but I'm extremely full, kind of the same as last night. I don't know how much longer I can take of this. All right, it's getting kind of real now. I am thirsty this morning. So I made myself a big bowl of oatmeal. Not necessarily the most thirst-quenching food, but there's probably a good cup and a half of water in here, so theoretically it should hydrate me. I'm gonna throw some berries on top of this, and I've got some scrambled eggs as well. The problem with trying to eat your water is that every step of digestion itself requires water. The movement of food, dissolving the nutrients, enzymatic reactions, and hydrolysis, which is using water to break chemical bonds. The biggest water users by far are starches and proteins. So that salmon dinner and this oatmeal breakfast is not a great combo. Fiber doesn't help either because it sucks up water like a sponge. And that's just to be able to move through the gut. When it starts to ferment, it uses even more water. I went to work and had my usual snack of apple and orange. Very hydrating in the moment, but only leaves me wanting more. For lunch, I had some pasta, which was slightly too dry, and another orange. All this did was get me dreaming of a big juicy cucumber and some succulent melon waiting for me at home. Time to hydrate before training. Well, I had a very good training session and someone made muffins at the gym. Lemon ricotta, incredible, but my mouth is so dry. Got to pair it with some melon. Oh, it was really hot today. I was moving boxes outside all day at work, so worked up quite a bit of sweat there. Went to work quite went into training a little bit dehydrated, and it was a tough one today. This is exactly what I need. Well, finally time for dinner, and I am parched. It's really hard to stay on top of hydration, especially on a hot day like today, and a lot of exercise. Just eating fruit is tough. So for dinner, I have the most hydrating food I could possibly think of. My beautiful wife whipped me up some soup. So you can let me know if you think this is cheating. Soup, because there's a lot of water in it, it's a lot of liquid, but it's kind of with the broth of the meat, made with bone broth, potatoes in there, so I don't know. Blame my wife because I cannot turn down her delicious cooking. And I really need hydration right now. Well, I'm excited to get hydrated.
It's hot.
Round number 2. This is very good, but it's also very hot, and it's a very hot day, so it's not quite as refreshing as I would have hoped. Well, dinner's over, and we have these ice cold sparkling waters in my fridge right now. You do not understand the temptation just to crack into one of these, or 6. How refreshing it would be. Not today. At least I get a big juicy orange. Well, once again, I'm going to bed extremely full and still a little bit thirsty. The soup definitely helped. Well, I think this dehydration might be starting to affect my sleep because I'm going to bed early, but I'm not getting great sleeps. Starting the day off with blueberries and a mango. At work, I had my usual orange and apple, and then a nice bowl of hydrating soup. Unfortunately, the dehydration was starting to catch up to me. Even soup couldn't help me now. All right, dehydration is setting in hard today. Gonna need to find something that'll quench this ever-building thirst. Let's go see what we can find. Well, I picked up another cucumber, some canned fruit, and a grapefruit. Apparently grapefruit is one of the most hydrating fruits out there. So let's see if we can quench this perpetual thirst. So we got canned pineapples and canned peaches, both in juice. So we're gonna have to drain out the juice, but at least I know the fruit will be well hydrated. Now this thing feels juicy. Let's get into it. Very sour, but very juicy, very hydrating. It's very good, but needs a little bit of sugar on it, a little bit of sweetness. It's just too tart. Well, it was very hydrating, but it was so sour. I just want to rinse my mouth out and drink some water now. Well, I was honestly planning on skipping training tonight, but that grapefruit has reinvigorated me. Let's go lose some more water. I don't know if I got hit in the face or if I'm just super flushed from dehydration, but either way, let's get home and get something juicy to eat. I had a nice big dinner, some sausages, guacamole, and a salad. Lots of water in that lettuce in the salad. Now I'm gonna really hydrate the rest of my can of peaches. Well, day number 5 of not drinking any liquids. Why am I doing this? It was another long, dry day, to the point where I was really starting to get over this experiment. The fruit was delicious and refreshing, but I was really starting to miss the convenience of being able to drink. 5 days was more than enough. I had a taste of the lifestyle, but I was ready to be done. Well, it's been a long, dry week. I don't really know why I did this challenge, but it was a very interesting experience. 5 days with really no drinking of liquids. I ate a lot of liquids, but I didn't drink any. So now I'm down at the beach, about to go fishing, finish off this Friday night. And what better way to end this challenge than a nice, refreshing beverage. Cheers. What a feeling. Happy Friday, everyone. And stay hydrated. So 5 days without drinking. What did I learn? Well, by far my biggest takeaway was a newfound appreciation for water. Being able to drink and hydrate whenever I feel like is something I definitely take for granted. On-demand clean drinking water might be one of the most impactful human achievements, and it's something we barely think about in day-to-day life. Before modern plumbing, every city, town, village, or homestead needed to be based around a body of water. But now we have the ability to live almost anywhere in the world, and we even have the technology to turn deserts into oases. Not drinking has some interesting theoretical benefits, but in my 5 days of experience, the juice is not worth the squeeze. It's just a little bit inconvenient to have to go source melons and cucumbers anytime you feel a little bit thirsty, especially when you're doing intense exercise or living in a hot climate. I think this is something I could easily do in the winter or days when I'm not exercising, but when you're intensely sweating, trying to eat your water is a losing battle. I will definitely continue to use fruit and food as hydration because I do think it has some unique benefits over just drinking water. But boy, I'm excited to go back to drinking. Thanks for watching.